Everyone. Welcome to our subcommittee hearing on the Committee on Finance. In the agenda today are the proposed budgets under the fiscal year 2022 of the NEP. And we will hear the following: DAP, NCCA, NHCP, National Library, National Archives, Commission of Philippine Language, and Cultural Center of the Philippines. With us is Senator Nancy Binay, who is welcome to make an opening statement. Would you like to make a statement, Nancy?
No need, Madam Chairperson. Will not make any opening statement. I'm just here to support the budget, and sana Madam Chairperson, madagdagan pa natin yung budget nitong mga ahensya.
Well, for as long as you can stay, I always ask them to include their appeals, so you can hear that, but we can also give you a copy if you need to step out at any time. But I'm happy to have you. Thanks for joining us. So anyway, let me just complete my statement then. So I'll first call on NCCA since DAP is not yet here. But I just like to point out that I chair the committee on SDG, our Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation, and Futures Thinking. And we recognize that culture is an enabler of economic, social, and the environmental dimensions of sustainable development. And years ago, when I was first in the Senate, you could still hear statements to the effect that hindi naman tayo makakakain yan. Hindi tayo mabubusog dahil dyan, ano? And I'm so glad that those kind of statements are a thing of the past because at this point we are truly engaged. Please stay muted, no? At this point, we're really trying to strengthen our cultural agency, strengthen the reach, of the arts and all our cultural assets and traditions, because all over the world, it actually is shown to be, as I said, an economic driver. And it not only strengthens our national identity, but it boosts tourism. And Filipinos are known to be very creative, and there are truly opportunities for growth in this field. So it has always been my goal to not just secure your budget, but to try to increase it, but also in ways that your agencies will be able to touch more lives, that your impact on the lives of Filipinos and your interaction with other sectors of our community are felt, so that it's not an isolated sector that some people still think it is. It should not be seen that way. I would like to see your agencies engaging with all Filipinos in all aspects of their lives. So on that note, let's proceed. Okay, so DAP is now present. We will go back to our original agenda since DAP is the only agency here that's not really cultural in nature. And then after DAP, we will call on NCCA. I think we've given a time, no? I think you're all aware of your time. Try to stick to your time, please. And so that we have time for questions and comments. So on DAP, to present the budget is Attorney Engelbert Caranon Jr., President and CEO. So, sir, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Senator. We're just trying to connect our slides through WebEx.
Okay, is that something you can do right away, or do you need me to call on you later? Sharing.
I think we are already online, Your Honor. So.
You may proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here to present the DAP budget for fiscal year 2022. Uh, to begin, please allow me to introduce the officers and staff coming from the Academy joining us today. We have Senior Vice President Magdalena Mendoza, Senior Vice President Bernardo Dizon, Dean Lizan Kalina, Dr. Alan Cajes, Managing Director Imelda Caluen, Managing Director Nanette Caparos, Managing Director Arnel Abanto, Managing Director Monina de Armas, Managing Director Mark Lemuel Garcia, and Managing Director Ani Barawidan. Your Honor, our presentation includes the following: a very brief introduction of the Academy's mandates, our programs and projects, and some of the principles that guide us in the Academy when we develop and implement our various interventions for our clients, some basic information and context with regard to our GAA-funded projects, and the Academy's accomplishments this year, and finally, the Academy's proposed budget for our government-mandated programs for 2022. The current slide shows that the Development Academy of the Philippines is a government-owned and controlled corporation that was created through Presidential Decree 205 way back in 1973. It also shows the different laws that have been enacted with very direct bearing on our mandate. Slide. For 48 years, we have strayed true to the following mandates given to us by PD 205. That is to promote the development through human resource programs, research, data collection, and information services. To promote and carry on and conduct scientific, interdisciplinary, and policy-oriented research education, training, consultancy, and publication. And finally, to serve as a venue for the creation and exchange of ideas and expertise, not only in the Philippines, but also in the Asia region. Your Honor, as you can see from the next slide, the DAP sources of revenue have, through the years, from 2015 at least up to 2022, shifted from client-funded programs or programs coming from our corporate business operations to implementation or operationalization of the new government mandates. Your Honor, if you notice that for 2021, the GAA mandated program amounts to 1,150,000,000 pesos. And the reason for this is the inclusion of the Special Allotment Release Order, or the SARO, for the new training building amounting to 451,669 million, and the unreleased notice of cash allowance NCA for 2020 GAA mandated programs. Now may I present the Academy's 2022 budget proposal. In order to put some context, please allow me to digress a bit. As you can see from the slides, for fiscal year 2020, the first bar to the left, we received the amount of 412,992,000 for our GAA programs on education and training, research and technical assistance, and other locally funded projects. The locally funded projects or programs pertain to investments in infrastructure and facilities in support to our education, training, and research activities. Please note that the actual GAA amount released for that year is actually 469 million due to the requirements or in compliance with the requirements of the Bayanihan Act. And as a consequence, the DAP contributed the amount of 57 million for the COVID response. For fiscal year 2021, we originally proposed a budget of 1.3 billion for the Academy's GAA mandated programs. However, the DBM only proposed the amount of 402.214 million, which is only about 29% of our original request. We requested Congress and DBM to reconsider our budget proposal, and both allowed us to raise our budget to 483.714 million. That is the value that appears on top of the second bar based on the second reconsideration, which is about 35% of our original proposal. For fiscal year 2022, we proposed a 1.6 billion allotment. However, as in previous years, the DBM proposed a much lower amount of 554.17 million, which is about 34% of our original proposal. We wish to appeal and request that our budget be reconsidered both by Congress and by DBM, and we are requesting an additional amount of 385 million for our 2022 budget. With the bigger allocation of for 2022, we firmly believe that we can create more milestones, not just for the academy, but also in promoting good governance in the government as a whole. We understand that our government has to prioritize programs that directly address concerns and challenges created by the coronavirus pandemic. However, we believe that another strategic response to the pandemic also involves the empowerment of our public servants and organizations to move forward from the pandemic that is occurring now. We believe that more capable public servants and institutions are needed to once again jumpstart our economy. The slide shows that the DAP proposed the total amount of 1.6 billion. However, 554.417 million was approved by DBM under our 2022 National Expenditure Program. However, as mentioned a while ago, we are requesting for a reconsideration in the amount of 385 million to be added to the current approved NEP for 2022 to arrive at the amount of 900 million, broken down as follows. 279.232 million for education and training programs, 456.550 million for locally funded programs, and 204.45 million for research and technical assistance in public sector productivity. Your Honor, here and in the next slide that I will also be presenting to you, the proposed budget of DAP on the three main focus areas, consisting of those programs that are funded and also those programs that are not funded under the NEP 2022. As shown under our education and training programs, the funded programs are the Public Management Development Program, programs under the Productivity and Development Center, the Education, Training, and Capability Building Seminars. We are also requesting for reconsideration of the unfunded programs as follows: the Foresight and Anticipatory Governance, the support for the academic programs of our graduate school, and the Smart and Creative Communities Program. Under our research and technical assistance on public sector productivity programs, the funded programs are the Government Quality Management Program, the Modernizing Government Regulations Program.
Don't read it anymore, no, because I can see it here naman. I'll just quickly go to my questions. Itong mga naka in red, diba, those are the ones that are not funded. Are these all congressional insertions?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo, sige. Can you, obviously, I'm very familiar with the foresight and anticipatory governance, no, because I work with DAP on that. Just be sure that my team has all the data on these programs that were not funded so that we can review it. But very quickly, fully utilized ba itong mga, like in 2021, yung tatlong number 4, 5, 6, were you able to fully utilize it?
Obligated po silang lahat, ma'am. It was not fully utilized because of the pandemic, ma'am. We needed to, and some of the funds were not yet released, ma'am.
Well, you need to give me details because I'm very supportive of these programs in general. But if they point out to me that it's on your end that you were not able to obligate or utilize, then I have a hard time pushing for it. So kung late ang release ng lahat niyan, then of course that affects your ability to obligate, di ba? So
Yes, ma'am.
I'll need the details on that.
Ma'am, we already submitted the details of the accomplishment and also the proposed plan, and also
Okay.
including the date of releases of all the programs, ma'am.
Okay, because for the information of everyone, that what I'm saying. Well, the first few presenters kindly take the cue from my kind of questions to ensure that you also prepare your documents in the same way. No, I'm referring to all the agencies that are going to present. No, because this time that we have is really just an overview for the senators and their staff to see what's going on. But the final committee report my subcommittee report will be based on a lot of the documents and other exchanges that we have. Okay, so I'm just clarifying that. And then I'd also like to know if these programs have been were only introduced last year or for this year's budget, or these programs that existed for more than a year.
Some of the programs existed last year, ma'am, and these are part of the continuation of the programs. But also some programs here are new programs.
Okay, thank you. Sige, my team is saying that your time is up, so can you wrap it up, sir?
Your Honor, in essence, we are requesting for a reconsideration of the amounts that we requested, but was not included in the NEP. But we also gave your office, ma'am, a listing of the priorities that we wanted to be reconsidered, including the amounts, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I saw that, and they also informed me of that. Sige. Very briefly, can you tell me about the let's just put on record the seminars or the workshops that you have initiated with our government agencies on futures thinking? I know that there was one with the Department of Agriculture, and then there was also some
Okay.
UP Los Baños.
Oh. Ma'am, currently, what I have, ma'am, on futures thinking are the researches that were commissioned by the AP through the fund that you provided. We will be submitting to you, ma'am, the lists of seminars and trainings that we did for that. But currently, ma'am, what I have on my possession right now is just the researches, ma'am, that we commissioned for purposes of futures thinking, ma'am.
Sige, kindly be prepared with that, because I think you would know that that's my initiative to engage DAP and give you the funding necessary to be the lead agency in providing education and training on this. No, so I need to see that this is being done, because if not, then I can partner with other agencies to ensure that this gets done, because this is a new area, and I want to be sure that these workshops are happening, educating our government agencies on that. And I always tell them go to DAP, check with DAP. And I assume some of them would also have their own funding, diba? So it doesn't really matter to me whose funding is used, but I want to be sure that you're equipped to do that. So I'll just have my team
Yes, ma'am.
get
Ma'am, may I refer to direct to our Dean Lizan Kalina, who is in charge to do those roundtable discussions, ma'am.
sige, kasi I was expecting na isasama nyo yan dahil alam nyo ako yung nagpo-push niyan tapos wala naman kayong sinasabi. Sige.
Yes, thank you, President Coronan. Pleasant afternoon, Senator Pia Cayetano and Senator Nancy Binay. With our initiatives on futures thinking, we've conducted a number of extension services with different state universities and colleges, and likewise with different NGAs and LGUs. In fact, in our programs, in our certificate courses, one, of course, is a certificate course on futures thinking, which we invited you, Madam Chair, in the graduation and in the opening rites. We have already more than 100 plus, no? More than 100 students who received their certificate rather, on futures thinking. Aside from that, in our program for NYC, for the youth development, we embedded and incorporated a subject on futures thinking. Likewise, with local governments, that is in specific DILG4A, and for our CLIck program, which we have undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, we have embedded that likewise. That's why they are now crafting their policy papers on foresight and futures thinking, which will be implemented in their respective organizations, and also in all other activities. No? So, meaning to say that futures thinking and foresight are core areas which have been incorporated in our masters in public management programs. And the support that you extended to us on research, on SDGs and futures thinking, for the first phase, we've fully utilized the amount, and we submitted also the report before your office. On the second phase, we are now on functionality and practicality of SDGs using futures thinking as a lens. The call for papers is also ongoing, and we received good proposals from different sectors in the bureaucracy, from SUCs, LGUs, and NGAs. So far, our initiatives on futures thinking is really on education, training, research, and advocacy. So on the first year, it's really about democratizing futures thinking, and we are now on the second stage, which is deepening futures thinking, and hopefully we can institutionalize futures thinking and harvest a better future for the country. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the update, no, because as you also know that the Mandanas ruling will come into effect in 2022. I don't know if you already have enough information, because even we don't have enough information to include this in your trainings. Now, we don't know the exact effect, no, on all of this. It's only recently that we started getting some information on how this will be trickled down. And if not for the budget of DOH that I also handle, I still would not have gotten an update on how they intend to implement the Mandanas ruling. In any case, I'm just using the Mandanas ruling as an example of how I expect you to embed the principles of futures thinking and anticipatory governance in all your programs. So I do appreciate it, Lizan, when you said that it's embedded, no? Because what I want to see is in the very near future, like in even 3 or 5 years, the LGUs that we discuss with, when they present to us also their issues, it's in that concept of sustainable development. It's with that concept of preparing a future that was considered at the present time, no, and all those other things that we do, because otherwise it will take so long for us to be speaking on the same page. But with you embedding it in all the programs that you are undertaking and delivering, it will make the process so much faster. And may I also suggest that when, of course, a lot of your programs, or maybe a lot of your work may also be client driven, right? They come to you and ask. Kindly include that in your when you present to them the possible program. What the whole whether it's a weekend or weekday. Please present it to them in that way so that it becomes easier for us, because we're all speaking the same language. it's very difficult, and I'm still encountering it when I still see programs that have no concept of the sustainability in the next decade even, no? Because obviously during the time of this pandemic we tend to be pulled into the now, and I was hoping that this very pandemic is what would transform us into that kind of thinking, that even when we do today what we need to do to save lives, this is in the concept of sustainability also, di ba? In terms of, making it a long-lasting intervention and not just an overnight weekend intervention. So anyway, we have a lot of other agencies here, but this way of thinking applies also to all the other agencies. In fact, since kayo yung magkaka-group, may I suggest that you conduct a futures thinking workshop for all our cultural agencies, di ba? So that they can see themselves in the next 30 years, no? What do we expect to come out of our each of our agencies 30 years from now? So in the year 2040, 2050, how do we expect our cultural agencies to be influencing, to be a part? How is it in the lives of each and every Filipino? That's why I started my opening statement in that way, no? Now that's my vision. But if you don't have like a 20 or 30-year plan, it's not that easy to assume that in 20 or 30 years you will be where you want to be, because you never went through those that exercise, no? The steps towards even envisioning what your aspirations are for 20 or 30 years from now. So anyway, I'll make that an assignment for all of you, and may I ask you, Dean Lizan, to take the lead in can you all reach out to DAP and find out what you can do, so that in the next presentation, maybe I won't even wait for next year, I will have a hearing on the future of our creative industries, our culture and arts, and expect you to present something there. So in a few months, okay? So assignment ko na yan sa inyong lahat. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, very quickly lang, you mentioned about the Mandanas and also the cultural agencies. So just this morning, actually, I presented the Hiraya Foresight. It's an indigenous base of futures thinking that we are developing now. And the ILG is really planning to have a framework in order for them to use futures thinking as a lens in the implementation of the Mandanas ruling. And likewise, for the cultural agencies, we'll be very happy the AP is happy to collaborate with our cultural agencies because of this Hiraya Foresight, the indigenization of futures thinking. So thank you for mentioning that, Senator Pia.
Are you working with the ILG?
Actually, ma'am, they invited us for the roundtable discussion, but the AP is part of the team for the implementation of Mandanas, the ILGD, DAP, LGA, and of course the BMM.
Yeah, because I recently heard that it may be something to think about in terms of the rollout and implementation of the Mandanas ruling, that this should be done very slowly with healthcare. And in fact, what should be prioritized is the roads and the DPWH work, because the thinking is when it comes to DPWH work, kalye, the mayors are pretty much all on board in getting that done, because I guess it's very visible to their constituents. Unlike with healthcare, there's a concern that not all will embrace their new role. Well, actually, it's not a new role, no, because primary healthcare has always been devolved to LGUs. But as we know, it's not something that is happening in every LGU. So kindly include that in your research and discussions with them, no? Because my fear is that as dictated by the Mandanas ruling, and actually as already provided in the local government code, if it will truly be devolved, and if there are cities, towns, municipalities who don't prioritize healthcare, we really have a big problem in terms of the delivery and the access of the those that come from poorer municipalities. Wala namang problema dito sa mga cities, sa poorer section. So anyway, let me leave it on that because we do have a lot more of other agencies to talk to discuss with. I'll discuss with you more. Maybe I would like to be part of a futures thinking workshop on this Mandanas ruling impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Sige, thank you very much then, President Caronan, and thank you, Dean Lizan. Sige, let's go to the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So our next will be the NCCA, and to present, the chairman is Nick Lizaso, and OIC Executive Director is Mike Galiano. So whoever of your end is going to present, the floor is yours. Sorry, did you hear me?
Yes, Senator.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Senator Nancy Binay, Senator Pia Cayetano. The chair is with us, but I think he would also be presenting that of the CCP. So maybe I'll just get ahead with our presentation. So we tried to shorten this presentation and focus on the more essential things. Maybe that would help you, or that could help this presentation get through with what we would like to request. The next slide, please. So we are presenting a little bit of highlight of what we had accomplished framed in the task of the NCCA towards the preservation, safeguarding, and promotion of Philippine culture and the arts. In terms of the accomplishment, next slide, please. For the policy formulation for 2020, we were able to come up with national guidelines that being able to provide financial assistance to our artists and cultural workers, considering that in Bayanihan 1, not much of focus for the artists and cultural workers had been given. So we were able to utilize some of our budget to be able to give direct assistance to about 10,230 artists and cultural workers. Also, we are able to push for some of the pending bills that are in the House and the Senate. And right now, in the House, we had the approval of the mandatory cultural mapping across the different local government agencies, local government units, and also that of the development and the promotion of the Philippine creative industry. We also did some development of guidelines that are good for our sector along the line of recognition, also especially the new tasks or mandate that had been transferred to us from the National Museum, and all other guidelines that would help our sector. Next slide, please. In terms of the coordinative function of the NCCA, we're able to do 208 collaborative programs and projects, essentially highlighting our programs on cultural heritage, the restoration of the Metropolitan Theater, our Biennale Architecture Biennale in Venice, which actually got recognition, especially for 2020. Then our continuing program of the School for Living Traditions, which is helping our indigenous people in terms of continuing the tradition in this time of the pandemic, and also the production that would also help in their livelihood. Our institutionalization, an attempt to institutionalize the cultural development programs at the local level through the institutionalization of local culture and arts councils, which has also a pending bill at the House. In terms of the programs we have and projects, we were able to fund and support 439 projects, both in the aspects of the financial and the technical. Currently, we are doing a mapping and road mapping for the creative industries, focus on the areas that are the concerns of NCCA, which includes the performing arts, the visual arts, cultural heritage, and we included also the gastronomy. We are also doing the National Values Program. And I think, unlike to your priority and concern, we are now working with the UNESCO on the pilot implementation of the framework for Culture 2030 indicators. This actually measure of the impact or contribution of culture to the 17 sustainable development goals in an attempt to be able to have statistics that would speak for this narratives of contribution of culture. So this is a new framework that UNESCO has developed, transversing across the 17 development goals. So we thought that this will be a good opportunity for the Philippines to be able to capture in statistics these contributions of the interventions that we had been doing through the different programs and the policies that we are implementing. And on top of that, in 2020 until 2020, this first quarter of 2021, we did survey and consultation on the grounds on how the NCCA would be able to respond to the current situation, and we were able to draw up the culture response and resiliency plan, an initial launch of the programs that are in here. We are asking for assistance in 2022 as the first year of the launch of the plan. The next slide, please.
Before you go to the next slide, when will you have the results of that UNESCO? It's a study, no, to see the impact, no, of culture and SDGs. When will you have that?
The target completion of the study is in April 2022.
Okay, sige. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
And then let me just add here, no. I'm very happy to hear that. Is it the first time that they're doing it in general, or are there other countries that already have results? I'm just very curious to see.
No, this is the first time that they're launching the framework, and it is at the level of pilot testing.
Okay.
And we had assigned as our desire and intent to be one of the pilot countries. So we will have a national level in terms of the data gathering, but because there is the aspect of an urban data, we tap Baguio City being the first creative city of the Philippines. So actually, the inception workshop will be on October 2, and we invited some participants from your office, Senator, so that we would be able to see how the gathering of data for this study.
Just very quickly, and again, I ask that all agencies are tuned in as we go through each particular agency, no, because my comments would be applicable to all of you. I actually know of a young artist, very young. In fact, I think she's still in college, whose artwork deals only or primarily with sustainable
Development goals.
the use of sustainable products or whatever
Okay.
goes into her artwork. So even her paints, she buys the paints that are unsold, yung mga hindi in demand na colors, and then she gets dried flowers, the bouquets that fresh flowers na naging dried na. She gets it and she embeds it in the artwork. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure there may be others that you're familiar with, but maybe you can even have, something where you invite these young artists or young, old, doesn't matter, but who are into this sustainable use or production of their artwork, and have a way to promote that so that they can also share those ideas with the more traditional artists who I'm sure would be open as long as we bring up these ideas with them. So that approach on sustainability. And then meanwhile, on another topic, I also came across, it's in Sweden. I just saw it on Instagram. A mall that stores are devoted entirely to recycled products. So again, a venue then for the artists, to upscale, to redo traditional pieces and find different ways of it to being used. So I don't know if you have any program like that, but I'm just mentioning it here. And obviously, I think this would be very these would be good input also for our other agencies. So sige ma'am, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you po. Thank you, Senator. Yes. The next slide is just actually to share with you the status of our NEFCA right now. So since 2021, we didn't receive, because of the pandemic, 10% from for our NEFCA is really coming from the travel tax. And because of the pandemic, we didn't have that collection. So for 2021 and I guess for 2022, we will be on the same situation. So we are presenting this because right now, the NCCA is already tapping on the interest of the existing seed capital that we have in terms of projection. We are using 600 million for 2022, and for 2023 we'll be left with something like 236 million, and counting on the interest that would come in after 2021, that's the match that we have for our NEFCA. So following that, because we have the 600 million allocation from NEFCA, this how our budget will go. So the next slide, please. So for NCCA, I know that in the last discussion, in the last briefing that we have, we were informed that the NEFCA need not be presented in here, but we hope that with your intervention, we could be helped in terms of improving our access to NEFCA as well. So for our GAA, we have a proposal of 188 million, but we were only given 29, which obviously goes to the operations and to the salaries of the permanent positions that we have. And our project fund were all actually cut from here. We have some important programs that we are hoping we can charge to the GAA because our NEFCA cannot anymore take care of this amount. That is in the amount of 125, which is lesser than the original that we have proposed. From our NEFCA, as I had mentioned, we had allocated, we have a threshold of 600 million. And our project fund had been reduced by 67 million. And we are hoping to be able to restore that as there are still programs that had been charged on this and still within the threshold that we have. So from the NEFCA, we are requesting for a restoration of the 67.8 million. And for the NEFCA, we are requesting 125 million. The next slide will just present where this would be allocated. So for the NEFCA, we are requesting 55 million that we will be utilizing for the initial launch of the Cultural Response and Resiliency Plan, which was a result, as I had mentioned, on the consultation that we have done across the country among the cultural workers, artists, and the creatives on what would be the important things that they would need to be able to bounce back and move forward. So the programs that are in here are essentially being able to start up by giving more source funding for them to continue production, helping the different studios or the different venues to have the health protocols so that they can start to operate, and capacity building to retool to be able to migrate into a form that is allowed within the protocols, and some other services that are necessary for the sector to bounce back. And the other 12.8 million is needed for the implementation of the heritage law and the functions that had been transferred to us by the National Museums law. So these are all chargeable to the NEFCA in the amount of 67.8 million. The next slide, please. For the GAA, we are already completing the restoration and rehabilitation of the Metropolitan Theater. The turnover from the contractor to NCCA is expected to be completed by the end of this year, and the target is to launch the MET in December of 2021. And coming 2022, we are really needing allocation for the operations and maybe initial programs that will be launched for 2022. And this really cannot be handled anymore with the current NEFCA that we have in the current situations that we are finding ourselves in. Also, our entry to the Venice Biennale, which had been continuing and continue to gain recognition as for 2022, we had already been special mention in the award for the Lion Club. Yung nagiging awarding ngayon is the United Arab Emirates. And we're hoping to continue to do these exhibitions as it would be a way also of promoting our country internationally. Then the Likhaan program that we have, which is in Intramuros, this is both providing workshops at the same time. It is a center where the school for living traditions in our indigenous community can display and can sell their products without going through middlemen. It's, as you say, was doing it for them. And the implementation of our Centro Rizal programs. Currently, we have 35 Centro Rizal in the different posts all over the world. And this totals to 125 million that we are requesting to be charged for the JAA. Last slide. I think that's the last slide, and the last slide is just to appeal that hopefully we would be given this additional budget in the total amount of 192 million. So thank you, Senator Pia, for listening to our concern and for this presentation.
Ma'am, very quickly, yung sa NEFCA na appeal, can you put back that slide?
Slide on the NEFCA, please.
Yeah. So basically, this amount has not been released. I mean, was not included.
Yes, ma'am.
How's that amount computed ba? Kasi it's interest from the seed fund, right? So there's a computation there, and all you're saying is hindi nire-release sa inyo. Yun lang, that's what you're saying.
It's not included in the NEP. Because can you go back to our original slide of the proposed after this So under this proposal, we requested for a budget of 456, but it was cut to 386, which is equivalent to 67 million, and that covers those two important programs that we have. But we included in our original proposal.
But every year, nare-releasean kayo nitong NEFCA nyo?
Yes, ma'am.
What amounts were released in the past years? Do you have it?
Right now I don't.
Just give it to me, and then
Okay.
That figure is computed, right? So we're not contesting the figure. It's just simply that it was not released.
That it is not allowed to be included in our national expenditure for 2022.
For 2022 only.
Yes po, ma'am. That amount is for 2022.
But I'm trying to understand kasi if it's not included, then nandun lang yung funds na yon.
Yes po. Yes, it is still there as part of our special fund. Yes.
It's interest kasi from the fund, di ba?
Yes. Correct po.
Anong reason na hindi na-release, hindi sinasama? Yeah. You don't know?
I don't know po.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand.
Yes
Okay.
po, yes po.
Okay. Thank you. Sige, we'll help you.
Madam Chairperson?
Yeah, please, Nancy, go ahead.
Question lang. Kasi di ba yung NCCA, you're getting share of the travel tax, right? Ito yung NEFCA, di ba?
Yes, Senator Vida, yes, that's true.
So since alam mo naman natin na bumaba yung travel, is it safe to assume that yung makukuha nyo would also go down for next year?
Ma'am, actually, we had not been receiving our share from the travel tax because I think there's no travel tax collection for 2020, and I don't think there will be a collection for 2021. So that is why we are already using the interest of the seed capital that we have. So the amount now that is presented for the 2022 on the NEFCA are already charged on the interest.
Okay. Siguro, Madam Chairperson, I don't know which department should we ask, but I would assume na kahit papano, kahit konti, dapat may makuha kayong share from the travel tax kasi meron namang bumabiyahe. So, kahit papano, dapat may makukuha pa din kayo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get clarification or a computation kung ano na ba talaga yung existing travel tax collection
Yeah, sige.
for this year, di ba?
Sige, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Do that. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Actually, what I was trying to understand and what I was focused on was that the NEFCA is, what you get from NEFCA is the interest of that fund. So that one, that's why I was saying, so nandun lang yun. Kasi
Yeah.
it's naman that's being invested, di ba? So lagi namang may
Yeah.
interest yun, right?
Yes.
So that
yes.
part, I was trying to understand, bakit i-withhold yun? And then on the travel tax, I just assumed na mababa yan. But you're totally right, Senator Nancy, na mababa nga, meron pa rin. Meron pa rin naman. So, we should try to give them whatever naman is due under the law. And actually, that was my next, I just didn't mention it anymore, that if the law provides for it, I don't understand why, I don't know how you cannot just abide by that law. So anyway, I will work on that. Thanks for the intervention, Senator Nancy. So yun, sige, as you know naman, marami kayong dito sa, sa Senate, sa mga cultural agencies. So never lose hope.
Thank you so much, Senator Bina and Senator Cayetano for that.
Yung special request ko on sustainable arts and I don't know if art, I don't know if how do you say sustainable culture. That's interesting. Anyway, like I told Dap, let's have a workshop on this because I'd like also to be enlightened on
Yes.
Madam Chairperson, siguro last na lang, maybe can we just get an update din sa Ha?
Kahit ilan pa, huwag kang
Oo nga,
magla.
hindi. Kaso lang, sabay-sabay yung HEM ko kung bakit nagsabay-sabay hearing today.
Kwentuhan mo na lang ako doon sa kabila. Sige.
Yung sa SLT,
Yes, ma'am.
how is this program?
The School for Living Tradition, when it started, it was essentially just a training program that we provided, like a 1-year training of selecting whatever is the parang strength of a particular community. Like for example, if we take the Tibuli of Lake Cebu, one of their strengths is the weaving of the tinala. So we have masters, a lot of masters in Lake Cebu for this. So the School of Living Tradition that we have there is the School for Living Tradition for the weaving, tinalak weaving. So we do have a 5-year program. The first 2 years would be focused on really trying to ingrain to the young, the ones going into the school are the young people, because the idea is the transfer of the knowledge and transfer of the technology based on the mastery by the leaders and the culture bearers in the community. So at the start, it was just a soft program, but right now we thought that sustainability of the program would come about by having kahit humble structures lang. So we provided a certain amount for them to have a center, for the school to have a center. But the requirement is the structure should be a structure that is endemic to the community. So hindi pwede magpatayo ng cement. Kung ano yung structure na bagay po dun sa community. So we are supporting by providing honoraria to the culture bearer. At the same time, we're providing also support for the young students that go to the school for their transport, for their food, at the same time for the materials. So then the training is being done. If they are in school, usually we do the training on weekends. And to have them, there's also level. There are modules that have been done for that. And the other end of it is a partnership with DTI so that the products, we can have product development of whatever they produce in the school, and also bringing this into the market. And right now we have about 24 School for Living traditions all over the country that are based in the community.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sen Pia.
You're very welcome. Sige, let's proceed. Thank you very much, the NCCA. And next to present is NHCP and Dr. Escalante, the chairperson. You have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, Senator Pia, and also good afternoon, Senator Nancy. I will be assisted by my Finance and Administration Division Chief, Ms. Rosa Pitan. Since I was reminded that I should limit my presentation to 10 minutes, I will skip the first 3 slides because this will just discuss the mandate and then the mission vision of the commissions, and we've been presenting this every budget season. So I request Rose to go straight to slide number 4. So on your screen, Madam, you can see the top sheet of our NEP for 2022. So the grand total is 258. If I will compare this with our previous budget, so this is almost half of our budget 3 years ago, before the onslaught of COVID virus pandemic. And the breakdown of this, on our next screen, we have the original proposal that we submitted to DBM. The second column is the approved NEP, and the last column is the difference. So in all the items, in all the major items of our budget, there were cuts, particularly in our capital outlay. When I took over the chairmanship, we used to have around 300 billion to 400 million budget for capital outlay, while for this year, what is left is only 47 million, so almost nothing. As far as our ongoing proposals our ongoing programs, ito sana po yung gusto naming ipakiusap, that we can let go of some of the restoration projects that we proposed, but these ones are really important to us because it will affect already our operation. For instance, item number 1, we are maintaining 27 museums nationwide, and we have to keep their we have to maintain them, and we have to do some minor repairs on them, because if we will not do that, then it might deteriorate and might cost us a lot more in the future. Also, we also have some proposals for the equipment that we have in our laboratory. The amount is very small. It's only around 4.2 million, and we will be happy if this will be granted through the intercession of the Senate. Next slide, please. Well, we are also, in our original proposal, there are 3 items that we propose as far as capital outlay is concerned. One is the construction of the Lapu-Lapu Museum, because the NHCP is the lead in the celebration of the Centennial commemorations this year. So one of the promises that we made to our country is to put up a Lapu-Lapu Museum, but we originally proposed 60 million as part of the phase 1 budget, but we were only given 20 million for that. And in this case, Madam Senator, we will be postponing the execution of this, because until now we haven't received a word from the LGU of Lapu-Lapu City if they have already acquired the property that we're supposed to put to construct the museum. So instead of spending it for the Lapu-Lapu Museum, we want to realign this, and we want to add the amount to our proposal to restore our current central office here in TM Calao. Our building is already almost 30 years old, and this will be the first time that we will be having major restoration works on our very own central office. I was reminded by my staff that we have been spending millions of pesos for properties which we do not own, and I think it's high time for us to focus also on our own office. The last item in this slide is our proposal for the curatorial development of the Lingard Museum in Lubao, Pampanga. So it was granted. So later on, we will have some proposed realignment this also, because we were able to get in touch with the LGU of Lubao, and they are willing to help us execute this project, and we will be realigning some of the amount for the maintenance and upkeep of our equipment. Next slide, please. Okay. One of our wish list is to increase the budget for our commemoration and other major events. Medyo mababa po yung binigay sa amin ng DBM. And next year, we will be having some activities connected with the 150th anniversary of the execution of the Gumbursa Fathers. And there are still other milestone events that we will be commemorating. And the second item here is our proposal to have another budget for the closing ceremonies of the Centennial commemorations in the Philippines. We proposed 10 million, but no amount was given by DBM. This year is the Centennial, but because of the pandemic, and then the country was under ECQ last April, we decided to defer our activities and move it to the closing. Hoping that our situation next year will be better compared to today. But the problem is we don't have budget for that. Okay, next slide. This slide will give us an idea of our budget this year and our NEP for next year. Again, you will notice po na halos puro na lang negative. So even in PS, nag-negative po kami ng 1.9. For the MOEE, nag-negative po kami ng 13M. For our equipment and capital outlay, 89,000. And then, yeah, for a total of, we proposed 354, and we were only given 363, and we were only given 258. So ito pong kinaltas ng DBM na hindi pinagbigyan ay almost 104, more than 104 million pesos. Next slide. Okay, ito na po yung request po namin kung pwedeng matulungan po kami ng Senado na madagdagan yung aming MOE and also the capital outlay. So the specifics of this are given in this slide. We really need budget for the maintenance and administration of our museums, and also for the commemoration of the Philippine-Spanish Friendship Day, and also for the closing ceremonies. Madam Pia, yung original po namin na proposal sa Centennial, 10 million. So hindi na po namin in-aspire yun. We are only proposing at least half of it just for us to have a decent closing ceremonies for the Centennial. Next slide, please. Well, in the case of the one of Lingard, this was approved by the DBM. We're given 5 million. Ang plano po namin dito is we will spend only 2 million for the Lingard Museum, and the remaining 2 million, we will be using it for the upkeep of our equipment. We really need to maintain our equipment because we use them for our operations, particularly our laboratories that needs to be maintained regularly so that it will remain functional. Next slide. Ito po yung nabanggit ko kanina. We were originally given 20 million for the construction of Lapu-Lapu. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot execute this because of some land problems. So our plan is to realign this. So instead of using this for Lapu-Lapu, we will just add this to our project to restore our central office. So we have original fund from the NEP of 10 million, if this budget will be realigned, then all in all, we will be having 30 million for the restoration of our building next year. So hindi po ito dagdag na, hindi po kami humingi ng amount dito, realignment lang po ang hinihingi namin. Kasi hindi naman po namin may papatupad itong 20 million for the Lapu-Lapu Museum. Next slide. Now, this is the status of our projects this year. So most of these are congressional initiatives, particularly by senators. So this one, so ito po yung restoration of the Custom House in Iloilo. The same thing also with the Belfry in Haro, and also in the next slide we'll have the Plaza of Molo. These are all initiatives of minority leader Senator Franklin Drilon. So ongoing na po lahat ito, pati po itong Bato Church is also another pakiusap ng mga taga-Catanduanes. This is not originally part of our NEP. Nadagdag na lang po ito dito sa Senate. So ito na lang po yung mga naiwan. Actually, this year wala rin talaga dapat. Well, if not for these insertions, negative po kami. Wala po kaming budget for restoration works. Now, even kahit na po wala kaming budget, we still have to restoration works, because my team is helping NCCA in the restoration of the Metropolitan Theater. And this year also we are helping the National Archives in restoring the Intendencia, which will be the future headquarters of the National Archives. And this is also one of the reasons why I did not push through anymore to have a restoration budget, because we will give way, particularly to the National Archives and to the National Commission for Culture and Arts in their petition to have their budget augmented. Tutulong na lang po kami. Yung mga architects po namin at mga engineers namin ay tutulong na lang po dito sa aming mga sister agencies who have budget for the restoration works, particularly the National Archives, because we are helping them restore the Intendencia or the Aduana building in Intramuros. Rose, do we still have additional slides, or is this the last? Okay. So in terms, Madam, of fund utilization, almost 96% po ang aming obligation utilization rate, and then 82% po ang aming disbursement utilization rate. Well, this is expected because our budget is very small. Next slide. Or is this the last? Yeah, I think this is the last already, Madam Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, help us prioritize. Obviously, yung maintenance nyo is so
Yes,
important.
yes,
Diba?
Madam.
We cannot go backwards naman, diba? So, I think you've emphasized that naman. I'm just curious, is the maintenance work very technical? The reason I ask that is because can we make the argument that, I mean, obviously we will make the argument, but how effective would the argument be that this is also job creations? Because I try to really look at it as a circular economy, diba? Like, you know, we spend here, but not only are we conserving and preserving our very important cultural and historical
I agree with you, Senator, that the restoration projects of NHCP would really help prime the economy of our country. For instance, in the Intendencia building that we are restoring now, we have more than 100 workers doing the restoration works. Kasi
exactly. So maybe you can just give me some details like that so that I can use it also to bolster our position, no? That would be a good talaga, please. And then just to let you also know, all the agencies, again, as I keep on saying, no, kindly stay in tune, even though it's not your budget being taken up, because I randomly remember things that apply to all. For your information, I sponsored a bill yesterday. It's called the Vaccine Passport and Health Act, wherein in our desire to open up the economy more, we are this bill, if it becomes a law, would authorize IATF or DOH to open up more areas, including museum. Naka-specify nga doon museum, if I'm not mistaken, museums, for safe activities. Because obviously, isa yan sa nasara, di ba? And that's a lot of loss of income for you. It deprives so many of us of the joy the joy and the learnings, di ba, that we can have if it were open. So I'm just letting you know, all of you, that that bill is intended to really open up museums. And I think Jeremy Barnes is here, no, in the hearing. He was with us in our consultation, not in our briefing last week. But to let you know, so you might want to I leave it up to you if you want to send us. We can give you a copy, and if you want to express your support for it, because this will really help open up. And you know, in my as many of you know, I love to travel the Philippines by bike, and when I'm there, I make it a point to visit the historical sites in the provinces. And I truly believe, from my own recollection, that a lot of these sites are open air. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with visiting those places. And even if you were to visit a big old cathedral, ang laki-laki na nga nun, di ba? It's very different from an enclosed restaurant na dikit-dikit kayo, tapos kakain, magtatanggal ng mask. Ito, these are so may I also take the time to encourage all of you to come up with your own safe plans, in the same way I've asked. Jeremy is here, so he knows the discussions I've had with DepEd, no? Now, I really was pushing DepEd, and then I also had a separate briefing with CHED on the safe opening of classes. So I'm letting you know, because whether they open soon or not, your industry is also the kind of learning that our young people and even children can continue to learn from during this time of COVID, diba? I mean, in a perfect world, well, in a perfect world, this wouldn't have happened, but in a better world, we could have emphasized learning about culture and arts by keeping these facilities open, especially now since a lot of them are big spaces, and the young people and the children could have continued to learn that way. So I encourage all of you to include your safe plans, no? May I know, I'm sure you can tell me, no? But in the current NCR alert levels, close pa rin ang museums, right? Tama ba?
Negative pa po tayo, naka-close pa rin po tayo.
Oh, see, and so, you know what? I need you, and I will take this opportunity right now to encourage you, and I will be your number one backer, to come up with a safe opening, because people need places to go to, no? So I do not understand, and it is the same argument I will use with you, where restaurants where you take off your mask can be open, and then museums where will you keep your mask the whole time. And since wala namang field trip, so wala namang dikit-dikit na mga bata na nandyan, you just have couples going out on a date, going there, senior citizens maybe, being able to go there. Can you please make a case for that? And I will back you up, but I need to tell you that you need to be aggressive about it, because I don't believe that IATF takes the lead in this, especially in your industry, which sadly they may not consider as essential. But the fact that people work for your industry makes you essential, because people need work. And then the income that you will derive will go, again, circular economy. The income you will derive will go back to the maintenance works that you all have to do. So I can only do so much, one of which is to open up this discussion and push you in that direction. And then if you'd like to have a sit-down briefing with me, I mean, obviously Zoom, we can do it. And then I'll help you push for that, because just like open spaces, just like my support for allowing people to go outside and to walk and to exercise, I would want them to fill their soul with inspiration, to go out and learn about their history and get culturally improve their awareness and yun nga, fill their soul with something that inspires, di ba? So I believe this has to be done on a case-to-case basis. Like obviously, if you would open the area of intramuros to walking tours, why not, di ba? Maybe you would only allow one-on-one walking tours, di ba? Hindi pwede yung magmi-mix groups. Pero if a family books their own tour, why not? That's safer than a restaurant, right?
Yeah, correct, Senator.
So, but you need to be aggressive about it. I don't know, Jeremy, I'll give you the floor if you want to say a few things about this.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am, and good afternoon to everyone. Actually, we're classified museums as indoor tourist attractions. And if kung bababa from level 4 to level 3, as may happen in the next few days, we'll be able to reopen on a limited basis, and more sa level 2 and sa level 1. So we're just standing by for coming down in NCR from level 4 to level 3. As for outdoor tourist attractions, like you mentioned, Intramuros, Rizal Park.
Let me interrupt you there. Let's talk about level 4. I think you should lobby to not be part of the level 4 closure because you don't take off your mask na eh. So if restaurants really open, like I can understand pa nga a little bit, and the fitness industry knows that I'm also trying to help them, that in the gymnasium, you know, you're sweating, you're huffing and puffing, and I'm sure you've all seen the same visuals that I've seen, that if you're not talking, you're just like, for example, observing a piece of art and you're just not talking. And in a mask, as opposed to huffing and puffing, the chance of the virus spreading is so much different, diba, than smiling calmly. Unless you get really excited about art, now, which probably some of you and then you're huffing and puffing. But I would even encourage you to ask that your classification change. But I see what you're saying. So for now, that's what it is. Try to get that change for the next level, no? For the next, I think naman will go down pretty soon. But try to get the change for the next level. Kasi nga, nakamask pa rin naman. And you may even distinguish, because obviously if there are, let's say, museums in areas that, you know, it's very, you know, you may ask for exemptions. Like if they are, you know, the old style na high ceilings and whatever, then that should be more acceptable than small tight spaces, you know. So anyway, I leave that to you, but I think that's what you should do. Okay, you're talking about indoor, so now go ahead with the outdoor.
For the outdoors, kahit sa level 4, you'll find Intramuros, the outdoor areas for Santiago and the Baluarte de San Diego, their main outdoor spaces are open on a limited basis, as well as Rizal Park. Again, we're just talking of NCR. It's very different in the provinces. Some places were wide open. Some places like Vegan right now is under ECQ. We're closed talaga. And not even my staff can report to the museum on skeletal basis because it's very bad there apparently. So, but in NCR, outdoor is okay. It's just that NHCP and us, we don't have outdoor museums inside Metro Manila. But the ones outside are operational.
Okay. Nancy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, kasha lang. But you know, who should lobby for them sa IATF?
Well, Sec Berna is always the one that we speak to about it. She's always
Yeah, pero Jeremy, technically you're part of the DepEd family, di ba?
Sure, but we're also adopted with, you know, the IA, Rizal Park, you know, NPTC kind of group. So
and remember, it's not just National Museum, Senpia, kasi di ba we have private museums like Ayala Museum. Ewan ko kung open na yung Ayala Museum, but the other museums, di ba? Wala pang, parang hindi pa rin na pag-uusapan yan. Yung how can they
safely open.
Yeah, and then I think they can help dun sa mental health nung mga tao, diba?
You I don't know if you caught me because I know you're jumping in and out of different hearings, but that's exactly what I was saying. Like, you know, the peace, the joy that viewing art, you know, can give us, we're deprived of it. And even if we talk about indoor, Her Honor, Senator Nancy mentioned yung mga private museums. Even if that's indoor, you're allowing restaurants now no mask, di ba? So I would really, really, really make an argument for that, di ba? Na you can easily dictate per square meter, just like they're doing for the gyms. Na per square meter, how many people? So like only a family that lives together or whatever can go in every 5 minute space. Minimum pa rin yun, di ba?
I'm sure they can control yung pagpasok ng mga tao. In fact, I think when the National Museum opened for a short time, by appointment lang, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. Online booking in advance.
Yeah. Maybe if you can write a letter, Nancy, would you like to co-sign it with me to endorse it
Sure.
by PDF? Can you please, come together and maybe, but spell out na, so you make it easier for them, spell out your request. Like I was saying to Jeremy earlier, Nancy, before you joined us again, was that even ngayon na level 4, you should try to insist that you should be open like restaurants, di ba? Kasi they will always be in masks.
And siguro maganda sa NPA. I don't know if NCCA should do it, or I don't know which group from the culture agency can do it. Yung sasabihin nila sa IATF na yung sector namin, ito na yung ginawa namin to be COVID compliant, di ba? Like, di ba, nag-retrofit na kami. We've provided air purifiers, or may mga open yung ventilation namin. Meron kami, we can monitor yung carbon dioxide inside the room. Yung mga ganong parameters that they've taken to make sure na hindi magkakaroon ng spread ng COVID within their facilities.
Yes, and one other thing I'd like to add to that. I saw a recent study. I don't know if you've seen that, it's from Bloomberg, that puts the Philippines at the lowest of 53 countries. And one of the parameters that they use there is the level of lockdown. So obviously, they at least with that study, they view extended lockdown as a negative. It's not really viewed as a positive. So the challenge really, it appears, if you're going to look at that study, okay, I'm just limiting it to that study, is that how do you keep the population safe but not, put in all these restrictions that the whole economy collapses? That's apparently what's being looked at. So that's where you can contribute. Now, it may not be that every museum would qualify, di ba? Kasi if it's so small, then excluded yun. Pero kayo na mag-set ng guidelines. I always tell industries, self-police and then present it and show that you will stand by it. Anyway, is there anything else you want to add, Senator Nancy? So
That's it.
Thank you. Any last word on this, Jeremy? Anyone else on this safe reopening?
No, that's great. Thank you for the guidance. We will be aggressive about it, because you're quite right. The only complication is, of course, if it is decided that only vaccinated people can come in, then of course people can't bring their children and lolas and lolos, and people do come as a family. These are things that people have adjusted to, I suppose, but it's always sad when people have to stay at home. Yeah.
But the whole idea of the vaccination passport, which I was just mentioning to them, Nancy, is that you give confidence to people that it's a safe space. Now,
Yes.
it is not intended to discriminate. So in other words, if it's meant to be, if again you can prove that it's a safe space for all, so the adults are vaccinated, only the children are not, then in areas where it's safe, then it can be allowed, and they just have to wear a mask, So that's what I'm saying, that we put it, but what we're trying to do is to really encourage people to get vaccinated. That's the whole point. So that even me, like, I would be comfortable going, knowing that the chances that the next person I see is vaccinated, diba? But obviously I don't expect that of the kids. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But in NCR, and we're just referring to NCR, the levels are so high already that it's a pretty good sign. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, Cynthia, one last point na lang. Dun ba sa budget nila for next year, naka-input na yung retrofitting to make it COVID resilient?
I don't really hearing.
Well, for us, yes, COVID supplies and some equipment. We've all kind of done it already.
Di ba last year?
Since last year, yeah.
Since last year. This year,
So it's more supplies to replenish and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Senator. We'll work with your team. I'm sure I speak for Chair Escalante. We'll work with your team on that letter that you and Sen Nancy will sign. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pia, Senator Nancy.
Thank you.
And colleagues, thank you.
Sige, so our next is Senator Nancy, may staff just told me you are the representative of Senator Gatchalian in the executive board now. So okay, good to know.
Actually, na SNP, I haven't visited yung Metropolitan Museum. I don't know if naka-visit ka na. Maybe when things are better, yung Senate, yung mga colleagues natin, we can do a ocular inspection of the Metropolitan Museum.
Actually, we are allowed to make official visits. And in fact, now that you've mentioned it, and we can do it on our own, we don't have to do it together, I will officially make a request because we are allowed, in our official capacity, because I would like to be able to see so that when I back for them, I can visualize and know exactly what I'm talking about. And if there's an exclusion, I also know that even I would say, medyo that particular space didn't seem too friendly. Like, for example pala, si Museo Pambata, di ba? I saw that they had a relaunch of the outdoor open space. I wanted to see it also because I do want to support and also encourage people to be able to bring their kids there. So,
actually, Museo Pambata is a private museum, di ba? So, hindi rin sila makabukas kahit in a way, COVID compliant sila, di ba?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned it because let us visit it in our official capacity. We don't have to wait for an opening because we are allowed. And like I said, to strengthen our case, kasi like in me, I like to say that I've seen it, I've been there, di ba? Naman, mahilig ako sa ganon. So I'm glad you mentioned it because I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, sige, thank you.
Okay, sige, so let's move on. National Library of the Philippines to be presented by Cesar Gilbert Adriano, Director.
Magandang hapon po, Senator Pia and Senator Nancy at yung mga kasamahan ko sa cultural agencies. With me is Maricel Diaz, who is in charge sa slides, and our Assistant Director, Ed Quiros, our Budget Officer, Marvin Vanguardia, and our OIC Planning Officer, Jen De Masaca. Madam Chair, thank you for this opportunity to present the budget proposal of the National Library of the Philippines. Next slide. So, Madam Chair, I will do away with this, the vision and mission, just like Chairman Rene, taon-taon naming nire-report ito. So I will go directly to the performance report. Madam Chair, nung nagsimula po ang lockdown, ang National Library po ay sarado hanggang ngayon sa public, yung reading areas natin. So what we did, we converted our budget from the typical books, physical books na binibili namin, into e-resources. Kasi alam po namin yung mga clients namin ay hindi makakapunta. So nag-shift po kami from the physical books to e-resources. So kung makikita nyo dito, Madam Chair, yung average daily users before yung wala pang COVID is we have 350 minimum to 450 maximum readers who visits National Library per day. Nung nagkaroon ng COVID ay naging 475 per day na. Pero ito sila, Madam Chair, hindi yung physical na pumupunta dahil doon sa e-resources na binili namin at nakaka-access din sila kahit sa mga bahay-bahay nila. So, the number...
Ilan ulit yun yung pre-COVID and yung post, yung during COVID?
Yung 350 to 450 maximum a day. Yun yung pumupunta mismo sa reading rooms namin, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So, yun nga, dahil dun sa pronouncement ng IATF na magsara, so we shifted to e-books and e-resources at saka yung yung mga collections namin na naka-digitize na, they can access, papasok lang sila dun sa web ng National Library. So, medyo dumami pa nga po ang nakaka-access
Ilan
kahit
naman?
papano. Yun, naging 475 per day na halos yung average namin.
Ilan ba tong how many libraries are you talking about when you say 350 to 400?
National Library, isa lang po, Madam Chair.
Just the National Library.
Iba pa po yung public libraries because public libraries are under the supervision of LGUs.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, next slide. So, I will now go to our budget proposal, Madam Chair. We have 181,712,000 yun yung pong na-approve sa NEP level ng DBM. So, ang breakdown nito ay, next slide. 47.38% ay MOE or equivalent to 86,100,000. We have 40.73% for PS and 21,606,000 or 11.89% for our capital outlay. So the comparative analysis for this, Madam Chair, is nung 2021 gaan namin sa PS, meron po kaming 70,775,000 compared ngayon sa NEP na 74,106,000. Medyo may increase to, Madam Chair, because last year we were able to fill up some of the vacancies ng National Library, kaya medyo tumaas tong PS. And then yung MOOE as is, walang labis, walang kulang, 86 million. Ang capital outlay last year is 31,977,000. And Madam Chair, let me take this opportunity to thank you personally sa support nyo. Galing po ito sa iyo lahat, itong capital outlay na na-receive namin last year. Ito po yung installation ng security surveillance system at climate control system, which is scheduled to be awarded this month and installed this year. For posting na po siya this month, medyo nabagalan lang kami doon dahil sa situation, Madam Chair. But I assure you, Madam Chair, na magagamit natin yung pera ngayong taon at may install yung hiningi naming budget for this. Thank you for that, Madam Chair. For this year, we have a total of 21,606,000 or a decrease of 32.4%. Next slide. So for fiscal year 2022 and versus our NEP, the PS is 77,440,000 and the NEP ang na-approve sa NEP ay 74,106,000. We have a total of 90,830,000 sa aming, ito yung original proposal namin, Madam Chair, 90,830,000 and sa MOE, and we were given 86 million. And for the capital outlay, we have a total of 72 million in our original proposal, and DBM gave us 21,606,000 or 69.9% decrease. Next slide, please. Highlights and trust. So the National Library has two programs, the National Library Program and the Library Extension Program. Under the National Library Program are the collection development, reader services, library promotions, library special services, facilities development, and the Library Extension Program is yung support natin sa mga public libraries. Next slide. So, ito yung highlights, Madam Chair. We have a 4 million budget for the reorganization and restructuring of NLP. Basically, this is training sa mga public libraries to review and advise on crafting the organization and staffing pattern and review the development of functional statement of the job description. The collection development, we have a total of 30,785,000. Dito natin kinukuha yung acquisition, yung pambili natin ng mga Filipino na materials, Madam Chair. Pero malaking percentage dito sa 30 million na ito is PS pa din po. Next slide. the reader services and library promotion, the access to resources and various services to clients. Ito na po yung reading room natin. Sarado siya, Madam Chair, but yun nga, shift tayo sa e-resources. Na-serve pa rin natin yung objective at saka yung mandato ng National Library. Next slide. Library Special Services. The National Library of the Philippines is also in charge of the copyright registration and assignment of international numbering system. We have a budget of 3,935,000. Actually, dito sa 3,900,000 na ito, 90 or 95% is PS. So, makonti lang yung budget para sa division. Facilities development. Madam Chair, if you can remember, the last time 3 years ago, we proposed for a gas-based fire suppression system. And sa laki nung budget proposal, we agreed or decided na ihati natin into 2 phases yung gas-based. And Madam Chair, I'm so happy to report to you that the first phase is already done and installed in the National Library. Kaya dun sa original budget proposal namin, pinupose ko na po yung remaining half nung original plan. At unfortunately nga sa NEP level, hindi po nabigay ng DBM. So yun yung kasali doon sa wish list na hihingi ko later, Madam Chair. Maintenance and support to affiliated public libraries. We have a total of 10,245,000. Ito yung namimigay po tayo ng initial allocation doon sa mga newly affiliated. Ibig sabihin po, Madam Chair, yung mga LGUs or barangay na walang mga public libraries or barangay reading centers, pag nag-establish po sila, binibigyan po sila ng National Library ng initial allocation, totaling I think mga 200,000 to 300,000 depende sa laki po ng kanilang lugar at ng kanilang constituents. Dami ng kanilang constituents. Next. So ito yung, Madam Chair, ang request namin for reconsideration. Wala po ito, hindi ito additional. This is coming from our original proposal na slash. Ang nire-request lang po namin, Madam Chair, is ma-restore lang yung original proposal namin. Next slide, Sel. Ito, Madam Chair, I present ko sa iyo yung nabigay ninyong pong gas base. Itong itsura niya, medyo mahal talaga siya, Madam Chair, pero dahil po sa klase ng collection natin, papel po, National Library, mga important cultural, printed cultural collections like the No Limitang Here. So, hindi po pwedeng tubig ang ilalagay natin doon sa mga stock room natin. Specialized siya. Ang chemicals na naka ano sa kanya is hindi mababasa yung ating collection. So hindi tulad din ng regular na fire extinguisher, although hindi siya medyo mabasa pero nagmo-moist pa din siya. Itong ini-install natin is gas-based talaga kahit pa yung ano nga nila, Madam Chair, yung tissue binababa dun sa parang tubig nila, pag tanggal mo dun sa kanilang planggana nila, tuyo na po yung tissue. So ganun siya. Mahal siya, Madam Chair. Mayroon siyang estimated about 2.7 million per floor. Kaya yung remaining, umabot kami ng hinihingi namin ng mga nasa 40 plus million pa to cover the remaining floors, which is mga 6 floors, 6 stock rooms pa, Madam Chair. Next slide. Sel.
Just curious, itong ganito, of course, you wish that you will never have to use it, di ba?
Yes, Madam Chair.
To ensure that if a fire happens, you have a way of putting it out safely. What's the shelf life of this? Like this last 10 years, 20 years?
Ang Madam Chair, ang kagandahan itong gas-based fire suppression system ay walang expiry. unless magamit siya, doon na tayo bibili nung parang refill niya. Unlike no mga fire extinguisher na halos every year or every 3 years yata nag-e-expire, pinapalitan. Ito siya, hopefully, sana lang hindi magamit, so it will last hanggang hindi siya magamit. Next slide, Sel. Ano pa? Ito rin from our original proposal, Madam Chair, the Dream Live, which totaled 4,730,000. Basically, this is training and seminars for public libraries in preparation for the implementation of Mandanas-Garcia ruling. Because, Madam Chair, hindi rin namin alam anong magiging inat na ng public libraries sa pag-implement nitong nito. So importante maka-invite kami ng yung mga resource speakers na expert para sa lahat ng mga affiliated public libraries sa amin ay mabigyan namin ng seminar. Tulad na rin doon sa sa futures thinking, Madam Chair. Actually, I have talk with the Society of Futures Thinking para magbigay din sila ng seminars sa mga public librarians and library in charge sa buong, because we have a total of 1,500 affiliated public libraries all over the Philippines, and importante rin na meron silang idea kung ano ito, Madam Chair. So the total of that is 4,730,000, and we are requesting, Madam Chair, na maibalik lang ito para mabigay namin yung training sa kanila next year. And then ito rin nasa original proposal namin, Madam Chair. Right now, the National Library only have 3 vehicles. Ang isa, ako pa yung gumagamit. So, dalawa na lang talaga yung nagagamit ng opisina para sa aming daily job. So, ang hinihiling namin, Madam Chair, is yung coaster. Kasi part ng aming monitoring, nagbibitbit din kami ng mga gamit like ng mga puppet show na mga gamit namin for storytelling, at saka meron din kaming mga costume para doon sa aming tawag nito, meron kaming mga costumes na mga dadalhin, and then yun nga, kotse yung nasa amin at saka yung isang van. Although qualified na po siya, Madam Chair, na palitan kasi more than 10 years old na rin yung mga sasakyan, pero ang nabigay lang ng DBM sa amin is yung isang. So, yan lang yung mga request namin, Madam Chair. Hopefully, ma-reconsider lang, ma-restore yung original proposal namin. And thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Binay, sa walang sawang suporta niyo sa ating pambansang aklat.
Thank you. Can you educate me lang? Ano yung status ng opening ng mga libraries, yung mga local libraries that you are supporting? Depende din ba yun sa status ng
Depende sa restriction nila, Madam Chair.
So meron namang nag-open throughout the year? Meron naman?
Yes, Madam Chair, meron po. Yung mga hindi masyado affected nung COVID. Pero tayo halos lahat sa NCR sarado talaga. Ang iba nga ginawang COVID facility.
Oh my.
Meron report sa amin during yung kasagsagan, Madam Chair. Pero ngayon medyo bumalik na yung mga naging library na ulit.
Ilan ang NCR nyo? NCR++. Ilan ang tinutulungan nyo, yung mga affiliated libraries nyo?
I don't have the Jen?
NCR++. Sige, get it na lang. And then again, I'll just reiterate what I said, na you should really argue your case na yung pupunta dun sa inyo, unang-una, hindi naman kayo parang Starbucks na pinipilahan, di ba? Hindi naman talaga ganon. So by its nature, and technically, yung staff nyo are being paid, right? So wala namang kabawasan dun sa gastos because it's closed. I mean, maybe a little bit of MOE because of the electricity and kayo ba nagbabayad noon nung sa maintenance ng itong mga other libraries?
No, Madam Chair, under ng LGU po sila.
Okay. So ang sa inyo lang is like the technical support, yung
the training seminars.
Okay.
Okay.
So yung sa MOE, it's really just the National Library.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Alright, pero siguro yung nga, isama natin sila dun sa sinasabi ko na tulungan natin maka-open, especially mga nasa NCR++ and other cities na madali yan, una yan sa mga napapasara. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ang next natin is National Archives na ba? National Archives, to be presented by its Executive Director, Victorino Mapa Manalo. Please go ahead.
Oh, there. Okay. Good afternoon, Senator Pia and Senator Nancy Binay, and to all my other co-cultural officers, no, and cultural workers. I'm here with kasama ko po ngayon si Miss Jocelyn Reyes, yung aming Finance Division Chief, at si Marinisa Espiritu, yung kanyang assistant. Senator Pia, I'm happy to bring up no na nung 2014 nag-open kayo po ng aming exhibit sa Cebu, no, at noon pa man sinabi mo na pumunta ka sa exhibit na yon kasi very interested ka how Manila-based agencies reach out to the provinces, no, with activities in the provinces. And even then when I was talking to you about, when I was discussing our programs with regard to, especially with regard to business continuity, again you express interest nga with regard to our future. I mean, the idea of always planning for the future. So you can see hanggang ngayon ganun pa rin ang inyong advocacy, no. This is the next slide, please. This is the outline of our short presentation. Next slide. Gusto ko lang i-stress dito na ang isang function, ang function ng National Archives really is that it makes sure that there are no disposals of public records. No, it is not, no agency is able to dispose of public records without the approval of the National Archives. So you can see that even though we're a very small agency and we're quite a new agency, we're one of the youngest among the cultural agencies. We have about 130 people. We are servicing the whole Philippines, all the different 70 plus provinces, and also all the government agencies. So it's really a big job, and we're really trying to level up. No, we have to going to have to expand, and that's why we've been doing our planning for our expansion and our expansion plan. Next slide, please. We take our inspiration from Thailand. Thailand has almost half our population, pero double ang kanilang land sa atin. But makita natin na 9 ang kanilang agents, ang kanilang branches ng National Archives nila. Tayo 3 lang, no? So kailangan talaga tayong mag-expand. I'm happy to say nagsimula na yung expansion namin. Nakabili kami last year ng 2 building para sa Mindanao Archive sa Davao. No, sa Mindanao Archive Center, nabigyan kami ng budget, nakabili kami ng 2 building. But we will continue to expand in all the provinces, maybe even at a bi-regional or tri-regional level. No, kaya nga ngayon meron kaming proposal for the Visayas Regional Center. Kasi halos lahat ng aming facility ay inaarkilahan lang namin, no? Kaya nga hindi namin makontrol talaga yung environment, and as you know, recently nasunugan kami, no? Nasunugan kami sa aming rented na building, tapos a few years ago nasunugan din kami sa aming rented na building kasi nga naabot kami ng sunog mula sa ibang building. So hindi kasi namin masyadong makontrol yung mga ginagamit namin na buildings dahil hindi to amin. Next slide. Pero ganun pa man, nag-step up na kami ng aming mga magawa lang namin sa fire control. Dinagdagan namin ang mga guards. Every night, naging custom nila na i-contact, na mag-text sa akin how everything is. Dinagdagan namin ang aming fire extinguishers. Pero hindi pa kami maaaring mag-install ng system katulad ng National Library, which is a very good idea at gusto din sana namin yan. Pero dahil hindi nga nasa amin ang building. At the same time,
Let me ask you something lang.
yes, ma'am.
Is there any need for you to be in the heart of a city? Hindi naman, di ba?
Hindi naman po. Pero meron kaming, hindi po, yung aming main headquarters has to be in the city kasi maraming nagko-contact sa amin, pinupuntahan kami. Pero yung aming mga storage centers na inuunti-unti na namin nililipat sa labas. A few years ago, about 3 years ago, we had our first off-site storage center in Dasmariñas, Cavite.
Yeah. No, the reason I asked, but that's just a storage center, right? So it's not something that kayo lang ang nag-access, no? Not people don't go there like you said.
Well, actually, the people can that will also have a duplicate of the facilities are in Manila.
Okay. Well, anyway, the reason I asked is because I don't know how intentional it was, and if it was, then that's great. Just before COVID, so that this around January or February of 2020, I happened to be in Zamboanga del Norte, in Dipolog specifically, and I was biking, just biking with my friends. And we were in an area that was all grassland, not grassland, palayan. So there's nothing there except palayan. And every now and then you'll see a little shack, where the farm lives. And then all of a sudden there was this massive modern structure. And it turned out that that's where they built the Philippine Pisay Zamboanga del Norte, Philippine
Science.
And so it was basically 20 kilometers outside of Dipolog City, which is the main city in that area, and 20 kilometers out. And so the reason I ask is because I just found it quite interesting that, by car, siguro, ano lang naman yun, baka 15 minutes. It took me about maybe almost an hour to bike to that area. But anyway, I'm just mentioning that there's so much synergy you could do with different agencies and yun nga, not find yourself in the heart of the city where next thing you know, diba, and sadly, in populated cities, like in I remember I'm mentioning Cebu just because you also mentioned that I visited Cebu, but there's fires in Cebu City, barangays in Cebu City so often just because, dikit-dikit talaga yung mga
crowded.
Yeah, and so I really wouldn't want you to find a space like that. And then ito naman yung sinasabi ko, medyo extreme, pero talagang wala kang kapitbahay doon. The dangers of you being exposed to fire of the neighbor, wala kasi palayan talaga yun. So anyway, I'm just encouraging you that when you go regional, try to step out of the city. Plus mura pa yung lupa.
Definitely. That's our proposal is for a center outside the city, but
Yeah.
on certain occasions we also try to look for, when we find the property in the city, we look for one where our building will stand alone. Wala siyang we have enough space na it will be insulated from other buildings.
Sige. Anyway.
So here you can see that the ganun na nga ang what you described is exactly what Indonesia is doing. So we just showed you
Obviously,
Indonesia.
if you have a bigger space, then you might even have a little park there, So
Yes.
Another purpose, diba?
So, exactly. It can also be as a resource for the community. Sunod na slide, please. Bilisan na lang natin. So ito yung aming ni-request. Yung ni-request po namin ay 942 million. Ang binigay ay 171. So difference of 770 million. Next slide. And I will explain why ganun siya, So ito yung na-include 25 million of our requests, About of 17 project proposals, 6 lang po ang na-endorso ng DBM. Next slide. Tapos ito ngayon ang mga for consideration. Nabanggit po kanina ni Chairman Chairman Rene na tinutulungan kami ng ng National Historical Commission para para ayusin ang aming headquarters, ang intendensya. At so tapos na po yung first phase. So ngayon, gagawin na next year ang second phase. Ongoing ang first phase. So next year ang second phase, and that's 352 million. Ang sunod ay yung acquisition of lot and building for the Visayas Record Center, which is 100 million. And finally, yung sa big items, no, ay ang pagbili ng off-site outside Manila na center, integrated center for our facilities, no. So that's 71 million. The last two items are very important also. These are because you're talking about planning for the future, and in fact, electronic records are the future, no. That's the way to go. We have to all go electronic. The future is electronic. So we need 1.6 million for our electronic learning management system, because we are in charge of the all training for national electronic records, and in fact, we have already come up with a policy. It's already been published. And then we also need the computer hardware to support all these electronic records advocacy programs, no. So that's a total of about 5 million pesos there. But the big ticket items really is for the second phase of our headquarters, which is the Intendencia building in Intramuros, with the help of the National Historical Commission, and for the Visayas Record Center, and for the offsite outside of Manila, records, integrated records and archival repository. Next slide. So this is just to show you that we've already started work with the help of NHCP on the Intendencia, and we're going to restore the building, but with additional facilities to make it also a cultural asset for Intramuros. Next slide. And we're careful also to keep the spaces larger, no. This is what we're hoping to purchase in Cebu. There's a big lot in the back, so that's where some of our record centers will be set up. But we will eventually also be looking at more warehouses outside of Cebu. Next slide. Because that's exactly our view, no, na mas mura sa labas, and we can buy all the space we need, no. Now, we're also gunning now for such a center outside of Manila. And just to show you, we would need about a 3,000 square meter lot, about 5,000 square meter lot, because as of now, we are unable to do our function of keeping the records that other agencies are transferring for us. Just as an example, these 7 agencies, for example, were even though approved na yung transfer, hindi namin ma-process. So ganun nun, it's piling up, and we only have limited spaces that are actually rented. No? Next slide. And then we need the e-learning systems and the hardware that go with it. Next slide. Okay, our comparative budget. Last year it was 185 and now it's 171. So that's a decrease of about 14%, of 14 million or 8%. Next slide. So last year, 3 out of 9 targets were met, and while 6 were not met because of COVID-19. Next slide. This year, 3 out of our 9 targets have already been met. You can see na nga, like all our other sister agencies were already adopting. One example, for example, we've fixed our reading room, but of course hindi na magamit. So now we have uploaded a lot of our records online, so they're now available online. But you just gave me an idea of maybe we can design some kind of virtual visit to the reading room, no. We'll see if we can do something like that, and we will also work on outdoor exhibits like the one we did in Cebu, but outdoor. We'll work with other agencies, no. And we've been doing actually virtual tours of our exhibit. So 3 are certain to be met within the year, and then we're coming up with new strategies to try to meet the other 3. So we're gunning for 100% utilization this year. Next slide. And so our accomplishments for the last 2 years is we've been continuing with our training. We followed the lead of CCP. CCP was one of the first to respond to the new challenges, no, under Chairman Nick and Chris Miliado. We've now migrated all our training to video conferencing platforms. We're still working. We still do archival exhibits, but now we do it on our website, and we can do it in certain places and do it virtual. No, and we have finally, after so many years, that was Senator Pia. That's one good example of how the lockdown helped, because we were all locked down, so we were able to really concentrate on working on the electronic records policy of the Philippines. So we finally put it out, and we're happy to say that we're one of the 3 in ASEAN that has such a policy today. No, and we continue to give technical assistance to many different agencies, but unfortunately some assistants require face to face, and I prohibited this I suspended these kinds of assistance to agencies until everyone was vaccinated, and now we've started again to do these activities. Next slide. So we've, and of course our biggest accomplishment really is that we have, with the help of NHCP, we've now been doing and the DPWH, of course, I forgot to mention our funder for the first phase. We are now ongoing na ang restoration of the Intendencia building. And next slide. As with regard to our fund utilization, it's now at 70%, but it's going to be well, by this date, it is now going to be 100% utilization with regard to the funds that were given us through the Senate initiative. Next slide. I'm sorry, that was a different fund. No, so now with our funds, it stands at about almost 10 million has been used of the 15 million, and then we still have 5 million, which we hope to be able to utilize all this year. Next slide. Okay, I'll just this. You asked us to show the COA. This is the last 2 slides. The COA findings. No, There were 9 recommendations. 4 already have been addressed and implemented. 1 is nearing completion. 3 are ongoing, so hindi pa near completion, and 1 is definitely delayed. No, and may I just show you which is the one that's delayed? This is that we have not been able to sort out records properly or pre-groom them for transfer. And the reason for that is because we have no warehouse space left. And the rental, so that but we do have funds, so we're getting a new warehouse that is now in process. But unfortunately, Senator, they sometimes hesitate to rent to government because of all the regulations required, and they're not so happy. That's why we're trying to be more aggressive about buying our own warehouses. No? And also by the nature of an archive, it should be permanent. Hindi pwedeng palipat-lipat because they raise the rent or they decide to sell it to be used for something else. So hindi ka dapat subject to that. You should own your own warehouse space, storage repositories. That's all. Thank you very much, senators, for the chance to address you today.
Thank you. We appreciate all the updates, and thank you for the explanation of the COA findings, so we can help you explain that if anyone does. And reminder din to all, no, nobody else at least presented it here, so I'm sure my staff knows, because pag ako nagulat sa presentation, ayoko ng ganyan. So let me know if there are, so I can understand the status. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next. Commission on Filipino Language to be presented by Dr. Arthur Cosanova. And then I think the last is CCP. Time check lang, I need to be out by 4 o'clock. So let's be mindful because there's 2 more agencies. I'm trying to limit my interventions also. So let's proceed.
Magandang hapon po. Iharap po namin sa inyo ngayon ang 2022 panukalang pondo ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino. At tayo po ay didiretso na sa ika-4 na slide na nagpapakita po ng fiscal year 2022 NEP. At dito po makikita natin ang personal services na 47 million pesos. At saka ang kabuuan po nito ng personal services at MOOE ay 73,643,000 pesos. Makikita po natin sa pie chart yan. Dito po sa ating KWF annual budget ay makikita po natin ang PS na nagkakalaga noong 2021 sa 49.67 million. At para po sa aming budget sa 2022 na iniharap ay 45.786 million at ang NEP po ay 47.033 million at makikita po natin na itong aming pong budget para sa 2022 ay mas mababa ng 5%. At darako tayo sa baba para makita ating kabuuan. Ang ating pong nung nakaraang taon, ang budget po ay nagkakahalaga ng 92.607 million at ang hinihingi po namin ngayon ay 97.66 million para sa 2022 at ito po ay ang 2022 NEP 73.643 million at ito ay mas mababa ng 20% po kung ihahambing natin ang budget ng 21 at saka 2022. Next. At ito po yung mga para mapabilis po tayo ay andyan po yung aming mga nagawa sa taong ngayon, taong 2020 at meron po kaming mga kahilingan po sana para sa susunod na taong budget at ito po ay makikita natin para sa 2022 natin ang buod ng karagdagang hiling na pondo. Nakalista po rito yung diksyonaryo ng wikang Filipino at mga diksyonaryong pambata na nagkakahalaga po ng 12.1 million, saliksik pang wika, dokumentasyon ng mga wika, 4.65 million, paglilimbag ng mga MTB-MLE monograph, at bantayog wika po ay 10, KWF publikasyon ay 3.2 million, pambili ng sasakyan at air conditioning units are 1.5 million, at para sa pagsasalin ay 0.8 million, para sa gramatikang Filipino ay 0.55 million, online na pagsasanay pangwika ay 1 million, at Filipino Sign Language Act ay 1.4 million, at ito po ay may kabuuang 35.2 million pesos. So yan po ang aming karagdagang hiling na pondo at sana po ay maibigay namin ang kahilingan ito dahil ito pong hinihingi namin karagdagang hiling ay ito po yung natanggal din, hindi naman kami talaga nagdagdag dahil ito'y kasama sa original naming hiling, gusto na namin pong ibalik kasi kailangan po talaga. So ang kabuuan po nito ay 35.2 million. Yan po ang aming karagdagang hiling. Ayan po, na nabanggit ko na kanina. Yan lamang po. Marami po salamat.
Thank you. Nandito naman sa presentation na binigay nyo, yung detalye ng bawat isang item na gusto nyong padagdagan ng budget. Nakikita ko naman. So, aralin ko to and then balikan namin kayo. No? But of course, we will do our best to support. Medyo reasonable naman ang mga nire-request ninyo.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you din. Maraming salamat. Sige, so are we ready for the next, no? Sa CCP, let's call on Mr. Lizaso, Mr. President Lizaso, you have the floor, sir.
Pia Cayetano, Senator Nancy Bina, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, is pleased to present its accomplishment for the fiscal year 2021. We'd like you to know that even the pandemic could not stop the CCP from fulfilling its role in bringing arts to the people. Shifting gear, CCP went on to digital platform to reach the people marooned in their homes as it launched the CCP virtual program. To give us the accomplishment of CCP, may I give you our Vice President for Artistic Department, Artistic Director, Mr. Chris Milado, and for Finance, it will be Ms. Belma Bagang for Finance. Thank you very much, Senator.
Yes, of course. Sige, please proceed. Chris, are you the one who will present first? Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, President Nick. Good afternoon, everyone, colleagues. I'll give you just a quick overview of all the activities accomplishments that we did in a nutshell, and you will see photos and visuals just swiftly flying by for your visual appreciation. So in 2020, despite the major disruption caused by the great pandemic lockdown, the CCP was able to implement a total of 360 events, 78 of which were live events held from January to March before the lockdown, before we pivoted to the online platform. Please remember that during the lockdown, we were supposed to ramp up to our 50th anniversary milestone celebration, but we needed to do a quick pivot to the online platform. Because of that, we were able to mobilize at least 607 digital assets that were uploaded for public access, comprising of archival recordings made for online showcases and workshops, and together with the Office of the President, who did their own special content that was released online, we were able to reach at least 4 million on social media platforms and garnered at least 600,000 live viewers on YouTube, Facebook, and Vimeo. The quick shift to the online platform saved at least 1,200 jobs. It was our main concern during the lockdown, was to save as many jobs as possible in the artistic sector, and especially in the performing arts sector, in the areas of production and the creative sectors. The center also implemented retooling workshops to arm artists and cultural workers with tools needed for digital content production and distribution. Small emergency grants have also been made available to groups all over the country. For 2022, for next year, the CCP anticipates the return to live venues and will play an important role in jump-starting the performing arts industry. It has been said that the performing arts industry, together with the tourism industry, might be the last to recover from the pandemic. So we are all prepping ourselves to make this a shorter period of transition to the new normal. Meanwhile, the center continues to implement major renovation and repair of facilities and buildings, and which has started this year, and this is the reason why we're going to request for a restoration of a budget that is needed to continue this. We continue to conduct comprehensive inventories of its tangible, cultural, and digital assets. And this year we had, the last 2 years, we had this major launch of digital resources like the Encyclopedia of Philippine Arts Online. And we continue to lead in the development, production, and presentation of arts-related events through our online platforms. We are celebrating this month our 52nd anniversary, and we look forward to many more years and anticipate how we could assist our sector in recovering from this whole pandemic lockdown. Thank you.
May we present Belma for the
Thank you.
Finance?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Chair and Senator. May I present to you the budget of the Cultural Center of the Philippines for 2022. Originally, we requested for a budget of 1 billion but the DBM recommended a net level of 572,614,000, which is only 57% of what we requested. This amount of 572 million will come from the government subsidies in the amount of 351 million and a share from the tobacco inspection fees of 5 million, or a total of 356 million. The difference of 217 million will come from the operating and service income of 44 million and non-operating income of 173, majority of which will come from the lease of our CCP properties. Madam Chair, these projections and income targets are based on the assumption that all theater venues will be open to the public and on-site production will be allowed in 2022. So CCP is just like any other agencies po, we are adversely affected by the pandemic situation. The 573 million will be used for the following expenditures. Personal services of 216 million or 217 million. From the original request to DBM of 244, it was recommended on 217 million was only recommended. And then the maintenance and other operating expenses from 342 million, it went down to 332 million. And this MOE includes the 130 million allotted for the implementation of CCP's artistic plans and programs. For the capital outlay, for the 424 million that we submitted to DBM, only 24 million was recommended by DBM, particularly or specifically for the purchase of equipment and upgrading of our IT equipment. So that's the expenditures po for the 573 million na level approved by the DBM. And Sir, President Nick Lisaso will discuss po for the wish list and additional funding po that we are appealing and for consideration po to your office, Madam Chair.
Hello, nakamute ba ako? Sorry.
No, sir. Yes, sir. We will flash the screen po.
Go ahead.
Can I be heard? Can I be heard? Hello?
Yes, sir, President.
Yes.
Yeah, so wish list of 200 million po for the rehabilitation of the cultural center. Alam naman ninyo that this is already 52 years. In fact, mabuti nga, I cannot say it's a blessing, but at least because of no performance, tumutulo na po yung roof ng cultural center. Marami na po nakakaalam yan. So, tama-tama po, meron pong an obligated amount of 440 million na ginrant po sa amin ng DBM. To be used for the rehabilitation. Pero hindi po sapat yan, yung 440 na yan. Kulang pa po yan ng 200 million na ito nga po yung aming hinihingi na ma-grant sa amin para maipagpatuloy. Karagdagan po sa pagpatuloy ng pag-improve ng facilities ng CCP rehab. Yung po 200 million. And para po sa 2022 to ensure the continuity of the rehabilitation and be able to start an early procurement process for the project. Pangalawa po yung RA 11392 na National Performing Arts National Performing Arts Company. Meron na po itong IRR na ito po na registered na sa UP at ito po na-publish na. Ang kailangan po namin dito ay 60 million total budget, 55 po for the performing companies and 5 million for the administration cost for the RA 11392. At ang pangatlo po ay yung CCP Office of the President Project, yung pong 50M na taon-taon po ay aking nire-request para po sa tours of CCP resident companies na alam po naman nyo, dinadala natin to sa iba't ibang lugar ng Pilipinas. Nung hindi po kami makapunta, tinuloy po namin sa digital platform. Ano po? Ito po very successful dahil kahit saan po kami magpunta ay dinudumog tayo ng mga tao. Ang sabi ko sa kanila, dahil sila po hindi nakakapunta sa cultural center, ang cultural center po ang pumupunta sa kanila. Tuwang-tuwa po sila. At saka pangalawa po, yung 20 million po hosting of the 13th IUTA World Congress. IUTA po is International University Theater Association. Ito po yung dapat ay ginanap last year po at kami nabigyan ng budget. Pero isinuli po namin ito dahil hindi po natuloy because of the pandemic. Kaya ito po ay nire-request ng World Body of International University Theater Association, which is composed of 60 universities around the world. Gusto po nilang ituloy sa August of 2022. Ang aming pong requested budget ay 20 million. Yung po namang lastly, yung 15 million po, para po sa PPO, para sa apprenticeship at purchase of instruments. Apprenticeship po, ibig sabihin, kami po yung mangungumbida ng mga magtuturo, para ma-enhance ang ating mga musicians at yung pong ibang aming mga instruments, kailangan na pong palitan talaga. Medyo, kumbaga, sabi nga nila, kinakalawang na. Yun po ang aming hinihiling, nakalulihan, yung 15M. Marami po salamat.
Just a few very quick comments on your wish list. Yes, yung trying to look for it in my file, no? Kasi you sent me naman a separate file. On the rehabilitation of CCP, it's by phases, no? So, do I assume that paano ba to? You have general requirements, then it goes into phase 2. So, kailangan ba itong buong 200 million this year, or are you just requesting for phase 2? Ano ba?
Yung for 2022 po, yung 200.
Are you sure na kaya yan, ma-obligate lahat yan for the year 200, for the year 2022 yung buong yan?
Opo. Dahil meron na po kaming gagastusing 435 o 440 million. Nasa amin na po ito.
Sige, I just want to be clear because pag tinanong tayo, I have to be able to answer that. Sige. And then in addition, may question din ako dito sa performing arts kasi, no? Maybe you can just write us and give us the details. Ano bang kalagayan yan in other countries? Because like, for example, yung theater sa Broadway, I just saw an news article that they just started a month, like it was a few weeks ago. So parang kung ang US, a few weeks ago lang mag-uumpisa, I feel like matatagalan pa siguro tayo before tayo makapag-umpisa. Unless, of course, you can come up with a plan similar to what I was saying, that you present a safe way to operate. So I'm not interfering with the vision, but I need you to be sure to be able to present that, because if I will defend that and request for it, I need to know. Tinanong ako na, bakit makakapag-practice na ba sila on their own? So
ang una-una po, Senadora, to organize it and to choose for the different members. Dapat ma-establish mo na yung secretariat. In other words, magkakaroon na talaga ng administrative funding.
So why don't you break that down and show me what is the need for the administrative funding, and then even if you were going to give initial funding for each performing agency, not agency but company, how you would diba, para baka hindi naman kailangan itong full amount for the next year, diba? Again, it's not my intention to interfere with that vision, because if you can make it safely happen, wala namang problema, but I'm just trying to be a bit realistic, okay? And then doon naman sa inyong traveling program, which as you very well know, the senators were very excited to support the 2020 budget, no? Pero hindi nangyari. if ako ang tatanungin mo, I think that you can safely make that happen for 2022.
Opo.
If ang iyong mga participants are vaccinated, and then pupunta naman din kayo sa low risk area, and then the venue of the host will also be organized in a very low risk way. So for example, if you want, I'll even recommend you coordinate with Taguig City. Meron kaming napakagandang area. It's called the Lakeshore area. And I'm not saying you have to choose that area. I'm just saying that as by way of example, as running through the process, what would be the setup in the LGU if they also want it to happen, diba? Kasi I'd like to see this happen, eh. No? If you have a safe team that will travel safely, and then you can perform outdoor, why not, diba?
Yes po.
Natin yung full budget nyo, no? I mean, if you have a traveling what do you call this, yung malaking bus na they can transport you safely, and then you have a couple of performance, again, kailangan yan safely, pero open air, wow, that's so exciting. That would be really something that we could be proud of. So
meron po kami, Senadorang, pinaplano noon na dapat din nangyari, yung PPO Tours North, going to Isabela up to Tigagaraw, exactly in 2 buses with
Yes.
Victory Liner po. Tama po yun. Yun
And
po.
then testing regularly, because if you recall, a few minutes ago, I pointed out this Bloomberg study that showed why well, based on their study, tayo ang nasa ranking, tayo ang nasa mababa na rank when it comes to COVID response. And one of the details of that study is that we test very poorly. So one of the things you have to ensure is regular testing, kasi hindi pwede yung parang reactive lang tayo sa testing, kung may positive saka lang magte-testing, 'di ba? Para din ito sa resumptions ng ng sports, no? Lagi kong kausap ang GAB, and I always tell them na aggressive ang testing, and even in other countries nakikita natin 'yon. So if you can put that into place, maganda 'yan, 'di ba?
Opo.
Syempre, di naman natin objective na kayo pang maging super spreader, 'di ba? But and how nice that we can roll this out, 'di ba? With our performances coming from the CCP talents, no? So I'm very excited for that. And then just a quick comment, itong upgrading of musical instruments, kung maiuuwi naman ng mga musicians natin yung instruments, why not? Again, for me, it's a very good investment, because katulad din ng sinabi ng iba sa inyo na it's only during this time na sometimes may blessings din itong COVID na bibigyan ng pansin yung dating hindi nabibigyan ng pansin. So if they be practicing diligently from the safety of their homes with upgraded equipment.
Meron po mga instruments na pwedeng iuwi.
Yeah,
pero yung pong malalaking hindi po pwedeng iuwi.
But I'm just saying na
Opo.
hindi naman bawal din ang travel. So kung safely din naman pupunta dun sa CCP ba to ilalagay yung mga hindi pwedeng iuwi?
Oo.
So if they,
Sa storage po.
I'm not aware of any rules that, especially kung hindi ganun ka-heightened yung restriction, that prevents them from going there and practicing, di ba? So magagamit naman nila. So ako, that one is easy to support also.
Nawala ako.
So on the other items, I will probably need more details, no? But in general, as you know, we have an open mind, and CCP in particular, you know that you have very staunch supporters in the Senate. So do not hesitate to go up to them also and to make known your request, di ba? Para sama-sama namin kayong matulungan. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. I do believe that, with almost 2 years of lockdown, we need to promote the Filipino creativity and the arts, and I think this is high time that we put some effort here para we can also get out of this slump, no? So I will leave with this note for all of you to be aggressive, no, in the pursuit of your visions. Some of them have to be recalibrated, even recreated, but some of them might be able to go on if you now if you're more aggressive in the safety protocols. So when it comes to the performances, like I said, testing, vaccination and testing, and then let's proceed. When it comes to the other sites, yung safety protocols in place, no, the museums, the historical sites, and as you know, I will be your strong supporter in the preservation naman, no, in the budget we have to put in for preservation. And also, I'll remind all of you to also be prepared with documentation that shows the number of people you employ. So when the artists have jobs, di ba, yung trickle-down effect yan sa buong pamilya nila, you have to be ready with that so that we can show that this is an important sector that we need to support because they form a significant chunk of our economy also. And their families are uplifted, precisely because they have a job. So, sige. On that note,
Senator, may I add lang po? I just received a letter from Baguio, Mayor Magalong, inviting us for a production of music songs in November for the UNESCO cultural city.
What's the specific date?
Around either first week or second week of November. But I am meeting with them next week na po. I will be there in Baguio.
I'm supposed to be there for a wedding around that time. So I hope matapat
Good.
yan.
First week po or second week?
Yeah, and then I know Mayor Magalong is very aggressive, no, in the safe return to normal. So it's a good city for you to be able to test out this parang traveling performance of yours. So I highly encourage that you prepare for that because you'll have the LGU that will also take care of their side of the safety settings, no? And then kayo naman sa traveling ninyo.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much po.
You're welcome. I don't want to I would love to get more details, but I think I have more than I need for now. Please be ready for my staff if they need more additional information. We'll be calling you. It's 4:05, so we've spent a good 2.5 hours discussing this. I'm very excited for the possibilities. Think of 2022 as the rebirth of the cultural agencies and for the Filipinos to become more aware. I've also been messaging my staff while we were discussing because I was very inspired by many of the details that you have all provided, and rest assured that I will also do my little part in contributing and promoting. I was telling my staff that there's much more that we can do to promote the online activities that you have. So we will do that on our own and even share it with, influencers so that more Filipinos will have access to it. Para it becomes more of an advantage that let's turn COVID into an advantage. Let's turn this pandemic into an advantage rather than a liability, diba? So, on that note, I deem submitted the budgets of DAP, National Commission for Culture and Arts, National Library of the Philippines, National Historical Commission of the Philippines, National Archives of the Philippines, the Commission on Philippine Language, and the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Again, subject to the submission of documents that we may need to not only defend your budget, but to support increases of budget that you have requested for. So this hearing is suspended. Thank you very much to everyone for your attention, your time, and
Thank you very much.